So welcome, Beck. Thanks for coming on to the Your True Self YouTube channel and having some time to spend with me and talk with me. So I've got Beck Thompson here, who was a previous, and you don't mind me saying, is that you were a previous client of mine and went through the creatrix process. Obviously
That's
also
correct.
a wonderful friend of mine, but so I really appreciate you coming on to have a little chat with me and just seeing where you are now and how, because I've got so many amazing women out there that are part of my life. And so I really want to try and bring them in and share their experiences, share what they've learned, what they do. So there's a few more lined up, but you're the first one, first cab off the ranks for me, Beck. So thank you.
You're welcome, Deb. Thanks for inviting me to have this chat with you.
Oh, that's awesome. So what I really wanted to try and look at today, and we won't go too long because I know you're been really busy and there's all sorts going on in your life, but so it was over, well, actually, you know what, it was almost a year ago, pretty much a year ago, just 13 months we started your first creatrix session. So just fill me in what it was that kind of made you think that it might be worthwhile and what was going on in your life, if you don't, and it doesn't have to be all public knowledge, but whatever you want to share and happy to share, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, for sure. Well, basically, one of the things that obviously made me want to come on and jump on board with this is the feedback and that sort of stuff and the information that you'd given me about it and those sorts of things. And at that time in my life, not just 13 months ago, but also for the years previous to that, I'd sort of really been not struggling with, but living with anxiety, and it was getting worse. Depressive episodes and those sorts of things. And I just sort of thought, I've got to do something. I want to give it a go. Didn't want to really go down the medical path as such to treat it. So I thought, we've got the best power inside us to fix ourselves. So I thought I'd give it a go.
Right. And had you actually tried anything else beforehand?
I'd spoken to psychologists and psychiatrists, and it just it almost felt like they weren't getting in deep into what was really causing it all. It was like they were just kind of, it's like an onion. They were just peeling back that first layer and then not looking at everything underneath.
Yeah,
as well.
Okay. Did you get that feeling of, because I have been to some appointments with close family members, did you get that feeling that they were kind of going over the same stuff, like mostly? And that's not to take it this sort of type of process away from people that are going through it, and everyone has different experiences.
Absolutely.
But my experience when I've been involved with any of these sorts of appointments was that I felt like there was a kind of some of that rehashing going on.
Yeah, and it really felt like they were just focusing on the one topic or the one incident that had happened. They were sort of putting a spotlight on it as opposed to, I guess, looking at it like an iceberg. You've got the tip, which is the episode, and then filtering down through and seeing what's underneath the surface and those sorts of things. So
yeah, and that's where we really got to get, is to that core element of what's kind of triggering it right to our inner being. And as you know, and you're a nurse, that we can neural pathways there's neuroplasticity, and that we can regenerate neural pathways or change the pathways by the way we think and what our beliefs are. But you can see even when you've had patients that have had various injuries, that there can be some of that ability to rejuvenate. So when we kind of are ingraining that neural pathway constantly, it's sending that wrong message all the time, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, definitely.
Yeah, cool. And so do you remember what it was that you actually initially that we worked through? Because I know whenever we go through anyone's assessments, there's actually quite a long list. Remember the areas that we covered?
Oh, God. It's kind of all disappeared from my mind.
Yeah, interesting, isn't it?
yeah, you sort of think back, I can remember the piece of paper, but that's it. Like, yeah, it's I know it was sort of around the feelings of like self-worth and those sorts of things, but I can't really pinpoint anything. Sorry.
No, that's actually like the most common response and reaction. I know even when I've been through it, I'm like, I actually can't remember what I've covered.
And you always stare at the wall to think of it. You're like, is it written up there? No, it's not written up there. It's everywhere.
So you went through the process. Did you find it very difficult?
I think taking that first step was really difficult because you like it can be explained to you, you get all your information, but it's really that feeling of letting someone else get into your mind and your subconscious and those sorts of things, and you're like, you know, what are they going to discover that I don't even know about myself? Like, which was okay because obviously you're a good friend and it didn't bother me, but yeah, it was just like it was that unknown, uneasy kind of feeling as such.
Yeah, and I guess because it is a bit of an unknown, it's an unknown process that people are taken through because it's not new, but it's not old either, and it's not something that everyone's heard about even before either. So you can't really compare it to anything, can you?
No. It's almost like walking into a room full of strangers naked. Like, what are they going to judge about me? But there was no judgment at all, which was fantastic.
Yeah, and that I think that can be a real fear is what are they going to judge about me? And that's not even part of it all, is it? How did you feel when you were, doing some of that pre-work? And did you get worried at all about how, because we as women tend to put up these self-sabotaging ways. Did you find that any of those kind of feelings came up when you were, because it's not a very difficult kind of assessment process to see, but you still have to confront some of the things. Did you find that you felt like self-sabotaging sometimes?
Not that I can recall. I can recall feelings at the time that I was like, oh, if I choose this or say this, is that then going to open up a whole book of, an encyclopedia of things and that sort of stuff? And I really had to take a step back and go, well, that's the point of it. You're getting to the core of what's really causing everything. And it was sort of a huge process in yourself to be able to go, yep, it's got to get out there to be able to fix it's probably not the right word, but to get rid of that feeling and that idea and those sorts of things. And it's true, like, women are very self-sabotaging or even some men are as well. And it's just like, you've just got to put yourself out there and go, I want to feel better, I want to be better, and I'm the only person that can fix that. So if I don't let something be known, it's always going to be there.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. And that's the same with any sort of health issue. It comes down to self, doesn't it? Like it's your responsibility. Health is our responsibility. It's not someone else's responsibility in a white coat. It's, for me as a transformologist, I can only be there to support you, but you're the one that has to take the full journey.
Yeah.
And accept that journey. So I know when you went through, we had quite a list, almost a full page of what we call an issue. However, when we actually went through the process, you really only had a few sessions, didn't you?
Yeah, and I felt a lot better. I think even after, the first two, I think it was, I was like, oh, and then we had a third one and I was like, oh, I didn't even know that was still there. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And those sorts of things. And, it's just amazing what the sessions can do. And at the time, straight after you've done them, you're like, oh, did it really do anything? And then the next day or over the next couple of days, you're like, oh, I'm feeling better. I'm feeling different. I'm feeling less foggy. I'm feeling, those sorts of things, so that you kind of go, and then you think back and you go, oh, okay, yeah, it did work. All right, then. Deb's not crazy. She's not.
Some people might say I am. A lot of people do, and that's okay.
That's why we're friends.
We all have our own opinions. So yeah, like for me, like you were good. You only had, not even quite a full page. I'm pretty sure I covered almost 2 pages when I first went through a process. But it's interesting how finding the right issue can actually eliminate some of the other issues that you think are part of it. So, and that's why it's really an outcome-based thing. It's not, you could do it over 12 months, but do you really want to wait 12 months to feel amazingly better? If you can do it in a few sessions, that to me is like, well, that was way worth it. Would you pay for it again? Well, I know I would. Would you? To know what the outcome is that you've gone through.
And I honestly can't believe that it's only been like 12, 13 months because of how much better I am feeling. Like, you go, oh, that must have been years ago, because and it's even the people around you, like my partner, he said, he was like, you're just happier, you're relaxed, those sorts of things. And I'm like, oh, am I? I guess I feel a bit better, and then you sort of reflect on it and you're like, oh yeah, I do feel a lot better.
That's right. It's quite handy to actually be able to see the before and afters, and because we do record the sessions, but just sometimes it's there as evidence for you to go, oh my goodness, really? That's how I was. Because I know I've seen myself before and after, and I feel like someone gave me a facelift.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
well, I'm in the Gold Coast. Maybe I need another session.
Yeah. There's all sorts of places in the Gold Coast you go for a real facelift. Not that I remotely can encourage that at all.
Never.
Anyway, everyone has their own medical choices to make.
Yeah.
So and really, in those 12 months, a lot has happened for you, haven't you? And you've been through some pretty interesting times. I say interesting in a figurative speech kind of way. Challenging times. And how do you feel you handled those since then? Because I know previously you'd been through challenging times, and I've spent a lot of time with you and watched you go through that, and it wasn't an easy process, and it really was difficult. How did you find it this time?
Look, thinking back on it now, I really, like in previous times when I'd been in these challenging and difficult situations, I'd spend a day, sometimes 3 days in bed. I'd sleep for nearly 24 hours. I couldn't move. People had to get me out of bed to eat, to drink, get up and have a shower. And, when you're in your 30s, you don't think that's ever going to happen to you. But with the challenging situation that I was put in, particularly just before Christmas, I still managed to get up the next day. There were obviously emotional, so there were some tears and that sort of stuff.
Well, that's the point. It doesn't take away your emotions, does it? We are
emotional
beings.
It. So you can still feel the emotions and those sorts of things, but it happened 2 days before Christmas. It just came to a head. It was like a big ugly pimple that just exploded. Those really cool videos.
Like those.
It wasn't cool. Yeah, no, you don't like it when it's not a pimple. And I just really think that I didn't spend all day in bed. I actually got up. I went to my parents' house for Christmas. I went to, we went and picked my partner's boys up from the airport on Boxing Day. We spent the whole day with their family. And looking back on it now, if that had have been me 12 months prior, I probably would have been like, nah, cancel Christmas. Christmas, what's that? And I probably would have stayed in bed. And my mum, seeing me go through things before, even said to me, if you don't feel like coming down for Christmas Day, you don't have to. And I was like, no, I'm not letting this situation rule me. And it was something inside me that was like, no, don't let them win. Get out there and live. And I was like, okay, done. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And that's such a difference. And I've spoken to you, during that time, and your, I guess the way of viewing it, your perception of it, and all of that was quite different. So, it's nice from my perspective to be able to see those, physically see those differences. Yeah, so that's really exciting. Well, for me, it makes it worthwhile. And, you always want to try nurturers, we're helpers. That's what we do. And as nurses, we've always been that way. And so you don't ever think that you want to be not helping someone. So Yeah, so that's really great and great to see. And you know, there's so much has happened for positively for you ever since, really, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has. It definitely has. It's, you know, you sort of, you know, there's that saying that, you know, you got to hit rock bottom before you can get back up. And I was just fortunate that I haven't hit rock bottom, and that, you know, you start really realizing that you're responsible for creating your own path, and that you can't rely on others, you have to rely on you. And that's really what, now that I think back on it, the whole process and the sessions and that sort of stuff made me realize is that you can't let others control your emotions and how you respond. You have to respond to it yourself and be true to you.
Mm, mm. Oh, well, that actually kind of almost rounds it off quite nicely, being true to you, because we are looking at your true self, and that's what we want to get to is, you know, we, like you said, we are these onions, and we're finding that we need to take that layer off, because we've kind of put everyone else's layers on top of us along the way, and we don't kind of almost know which layer is really us and what core of us is there. And how do you feel as well, because this is the area that I find really interesting, and I really love this kind of area of your intuition. How do you feel like you're able to hear that more or trust it more, or do you think you always did, or what's the difference, or is there any?
I really think, you know, this was 13 months ago, yeah. And I really think it did. You know, you sort of, especially with what was, you know, what ended up being quite a challenging thing, the contributing factor to it, you know, I then started listening to my gut instinct, and, you know, the instinct within me going, something's not quite right. And it then gave me the confidence, I guess, as such, to stand up and go, no, because, you know, as a nurse, we're patient advocates, but sometimes we can be a patient advocate and we can advocate for ourselves and go, no, this is not right. Something needs to be done. And I really think the whole process, rather than running into things like a bull in a china shop, like I probably always used to do, and go, no. It was more of a present a situation. Okay, that got knocked back. Present another situation. Okay, that got knocked back. But it really did. It taught me to trust and listen and just really engage with that instinct side of you where you go, no, something needs to be done type thing. And I guess it's sort of like looking at the creatrix process for me is that, you know, in the back of your mind, you're like, I don't need this. And then you're like, oh, fine, I'll give it a go. And you think, oh, right. You know, I've heard about it now because obviously it was something that I needed. And it's the same thing. It's like, you know, everything happens for a reason. Everything pops up at the right time. You know, my life's basically, I could write a book about everything happening at the right time. So many chapters. But yeah, it's like, it's just, you know, you just got to trust in the process and trust in the transformation. And while it's hard to be positive all the time, still be positive that it's going to work.
Yeah, and I agree. You know, we do have our ups and downs in life. That's never going to change. How we actually perceive them and feel, because physically sometimes it can actually, you know, make us sick and things like that. So it can show up in our body and it can show up in disease. And that's why it's so important not to re-traumatize people, because some that have gone through the process come through some pretty traumatic, terrible experiences, times. And so you don't necessarily want to relive that. And, you know, when we, as women, when we think about our past or something that's happened, what we do is we attach that emotion to it. And so we actually feel that again inside our body. So did you find, once you're actually going through the creatrix process, that it was traumatic, scary, anything like that?
It wasn't, from what I can remember from it, it wasn't confronting or anything like that. It was a very relaxing, sort of welcoming type. It's, you know, because obviously you're sitting in the comfort of your own home, so you find your comfortable place to be. You're sitting, you find your comfy lounge to sit on, like I did, and those sorts of things, and you really just get into that relaxation, I guess, almost like a meditation space for those that have done meditation. Because you're in the comfort of your own home, you can really open up and that sort of stuff. And yeah, it's just, I didn't really find it confronting or anything at all.
Yep.
Leading up to it, I did, because I was like, oh, what's it going to be like? Oh my God.
Yeah, what is it? What is it?
Yeah. But then once you sit there and you go, oh, okay.
Oh.
Just going to sit.
It's almost not really about you in the whole process, is it?
No, it's not, which, for me, for something not to be about me is not a good thing. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, it's sort of, it's about you, but it doesn't feel like it's you.
Yes. Yeah. There's an inner, no, it's your higher self-knowledge. So it is you, but it's just that we've forgotten how to tap into it. Yeah.
It's like an out-of-body experience.
Yeah.
You know what's going on, but you're not there, but you are, but you aren't.
Yeah.
But you are. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, no, perfect. That's brilliant. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on, being the first person on to this channel and having a time to, answer the questions. And you didn't know any of them. I didn't really know either. I fly by the seat of the pants type of person. And, that's because I think whatever is supposed to come out is what comes out. And, so I sometimes have some ideas in my head, and might just jot a couple down, but really it's about, whatever is supposed to come out will come out during the conversation, and the right people and the right ears will hear it when they're ready to hear it. So
it
all
all
really
comes out in the wash.
It comes out in the wash. Well, no, actually all the stains don't come out in the wash from my children. That's a whole other story.
That's another episode.
No, I need to find out some expertise in that area. So thank you for coming on to your true self and sharing your experience and sharing your time. And I look forward to just continuing to see how we progress and how you progress as well, and to have a really great, amazing future, because that's what really is there waiting for you.
Oh, thanks, Deb. And just to round it all off, thank you for everything. Thank you for, guiding me and taking me through the transformation and the whole process, because I don't even want to think about where my life might have ended up had that not have happened, and I had not been feeling how I am now, even after everything, all the challenging times had occurred. So thank you.
Thank you. You're making me a bit welled up there, love. All right. Well, I love you heaps, and thank you so much.
You're welcome. Love you, Deb.
See ya. Bye.
Bye.